Hi, welcome back. Wow, that keynote from Karen Wolf was an amazing start to the day and to Muse Meets 2022. I'm Liz Brown, Publisher Relations Manager for Project Muse, where I run the Journals program for Publisher Relations. We're now going to focus on pathways to open access for the nonprofit scholarly journals publisher with our panelists, who are Simon Bell, the Institutional Sales Manager at Bristol University Press, where one of his responsibilities is supporting the development of Bristol University Press's OA strategy. And he was also on the marketing launch team for OAPEN. Raim Crow, Managing Partner, Chainbridge Group. Raim is currently a consultant for Project Muse's Mellon-funded Subscribe to Open planning grant. Claire Hooper, Head of Journals at Liverpool University Press, whose portfolio includes OA journals using different business models. And Andrea Lopez, Director of Sales, Partnerships and Initiatives at Annual Reviews, which pioneered working with Raim Crow, the Subscribe to Open model. And Andrea is also head of the S2O Community of Practice. Then we have Antonia Pop, Vice President of the University of Toronto Press, whose portfolio includes OA journals using different business models as well. I remember sitting at the Charleston conference many years ago and listening to Lorraine Estelle, who was still at JISC, the consortium in the UK, but I think that was right about the time she was about to switch to her next position at Counter. But anyway, it was quite some time ago. Lorraine Estelle was speaking about the situation in the UK, where in addition to the crazy high prices of commercial publishers' journals, there was now a new level of expense for universities having to come up with APCs or fees for their researchers to publish open access. And this was a lightning bolt moment for me. You know, it struck me that having publishers make what sounded to me personally, you know, a killing off of open access publishing was not exactly what open access was supposed to do, especially when OA didn't seem to be replacing the old models. The old subscription model was still firmly in place, sucking up library budgets. But I think that's what inspired me for a while in the mid 2010s to put together a series of sessions on OA journals, publishing models, and mandates for the Association of University Presses annual meeting. So today's panel is like deja vu all over again to be doing another OA panel. But as I began putting today's panel together, I was thinking, how have things progressed since then? And I will say that in 2014 and 2015, the concept of libraries taking on some of the funding of OA publications had debuted. Some libraries were creating funds earmarked just for the support of OA publishing. Knowledge Unlatched, where book publications were unlatched and made open access upon hitting a threshold of library investment, had debuted at that point. OLH, the Online Library of Humanities, was featured on one of the panels, was going to rely on library investment to fund an OA Humanities mega journal. Looking back at these panels, OA mega journals seem to be the thing at this time. Today, we see programs like Central European University Presses Opening the Future, which is a book collection model that funds new open access publications by this press, or MIT's Direct to Open, collaborative library-supported open access model, and there are more. So it's interesting to see these coming out of university presses. So how does this concept work for journals, which are continuously published? Enter the concept of Subscribe to Open, which has a lot of promise, so much so that Project Muse is investigating how we might go about helping some of our journals that are so inclined to move to this model. So let's dive in and first turn to Andrea Lopez. Andrea, how and why did Annual Reviews come to develop Subscribe to Open? And is your goal to take all of your journals to open access eventually?
Thank you, Liz, and hello, everybody. The why is the part that I think is important to talk about. We do solely review journals, which often don't fall under mandates, but we really felt that it was part of our mission was to make this information available. And our mission, we're nonprofit publishers, so our mission is to synthesize and integrate knowledge for the progress of science and the benefit of society. We've done really well with the progress of science by our institutional subscriptions, but it was the progress for society to benefit society where we felt we really needed to open up access. Reviews really capture the understanding of a topic and then take people out to the hundreds of citations. And it really is a bridge for people who need to learn something about a topic between the expert and what they need to know. So we felt it was our mission to open up access. However, the APC model doesn't work for us, nor the read and publish, because we are invited and we're all reviews. So there's often not funding behind the review article as there would be with the primary research article. In addition, you don't want to invite someone and then hand them the bill. And also, because we do tend to ask the leading experts in the field, the onus would fall on a small number of institutions for that payment, but we're read and used worldwide. So we decided to look for new models, and we engaged with Rain Crow, who really is the architect of Subscribe to Open. And we had a grant, and the grant was two-part. The first part of the grant was to see what the impact would be of opening up a journal that has been behind the paywall for, at that point, 80 years. The second part was to see if we could research and develop a model. And we'll talk, I think, about usage later, but we did see a huge impact by opening that first journal. And then we worked with Rain. We wanted a model that was cost neutral. As you said, Liz, we started seeing people making more money. We didn't want to make more money. Our goal is to cover our costs. We just wanted a cost neutral model. We wanted it to be simple and easy, both for the librarian and for the publisher, use our same infrastructure. We're a smaller company. We didn't have the bandwidth to take on a lot of extra work, and we know libraries don't either. And we also wanted an equitable model that would work for all countries, all institutions, and all of our journals. So this is how we developed Subscribe to Open. We started with 5 journals in 2020. We added 3 more to bring it to 8. And you're asking a question that I couldn't have answered for you yesterday, but today, so if you can all keep it quiet for the next half hour, at 9 o'clock, we are announcing that for 2023, we are going to use the Subscribe to Open model to transition all of our 51 journals open access with the support of our library customers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're getting a preview of some news that's coming up.
Well, you heard it here first, people.
Yeah.
You knew this was the place to be this morning, and you were right. Wonderful. So I think a really intriguing part of Subscribe to Open is what I think y'all are calling the community of practice. And I was wondering if you could tell us what that is and how it works. It sounds very reassuring. I love the word community always. But how does that work?
Sure. Well, when we developed the model with Rain, we decided we didn't want to trademark the name Subscribe to Open or the S2O, because we really felt like it was something we'd hope other publishers would take up. And we're really pleasantly surprised to see other publishers starting to use it. So we thought it would be appropriate for us to develop a community of practice. And our community of practice right now is an informal group. It started small. I think we have 45 people now on our list who could possibly attend. And it's publishers, librarians, funders, consultants, sales agents, anybody who has an interest in the model. We have informal meeting once a month. Our next one is this Thursday. We have people will share what they've learned. People will ask questions. There are people who come just to listen and learn. So we really encourage anybody who has an interest in the model. You can send me a quick email and I can set you up. You can go to the community of practice. It's Subscribe to Open Community of Practice is the website. And you can see what we're about and send a message through that as well. But we're happy to have new members who have an interest in this model join.
And so you could just be interested. You don't have to commit to it up front.
Oh, no.
If you're just learning about it. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really, it's for anybody who wants to learn about it.
Oh, I love that. Great. Well, I imagine our other University Press panelists can relate to Andrea's description of the mission, as well as not wanting to keep things as easy as possible for publishers and librarians. So now I'd like to ask our 3 University Press panelists what your press's strategies are for open access? Are you feeling the pressures from OA mandates or getting requests from your subscription journal editors to take those subscription journals to open access models? Or what exactly is going on, and how are you dealing with it with your journals programs around an open access strategy? And I think we'll go alphabetically. So I'll start with Simon from Bristol, and then we'll go to Liverpool, then Toronto. Simon?
Hi guys, and thanks again for inviting me onto this session. Yeah, in terms of our strategy, we're very much a small university press. We realise realistically we can't compete in terms of the volume of publishing OA output with some of the other bigger, more commercial publishers. But on an author and user experience, we very much believe that collaboration is core to our publishing strategy, be it partnerships with our authors, users, or the library community. And we felt really that the various issues that those stakeholders within our publishing program are having to deal with is the kind of the myriad of different permutations of the OA models, OA mandates, how authors select funding. And we work hard as a team to understand those pain points, whether it's through our librarian community, whether it's through our library advisory board or that wider community, early career researchers, established researchers. And we really try to understand those pain points as a department of a university. We're very, very close to that dialogue, and that helps us in the development of our OA author resources to help simplify those models, help explain them. And it's often the case, regardless of what level the researchers are, whether they're submitting their first article to us or we've got a well-established book author who's presenting an OA project to us. These type of resources are really vital for them. We're also working hard to try and make sure everything is streamlined as possible at the library end. Although we haven't actually launched a subscribe to open strategy yet, we have looked into it, and I'll go on to that later. Our read and publish deal has been simplified as much as possible, not only for the librarians, but also for that user community, be it researchers, teaching staff. So for example, our full collection of our 17 journals are available on a read and publish deal with an uncapped APC, which really simplifies the transactional process for libraries. And in partnership with JISC, we've got some really, really good engagement for that. But not only that, that also streamlines and simplifies the path to accessing the content and the path to publishing the content from the users and potential journal authors there. We're also working, again, we're using our position as a department of a university and centrally placed within that scholarly community to work with our parent institution to reach and achieve mutual strategic goals. So for example, in June, we're going to be launching our new Global Social Challenges Journal, an interdisciplinary journal breaking down academic silos. There's no publishing fee for any faculty member at University of Bristol Press to publish their work there. And I should also hasten to say that this type of initiative shouldn't be exclusive to the parent institutions of university presses. I think there's definite scope for university presses around the globe of our size, medium size, to use their resource, use their expertise to go out there and collaborate with other institutions on similar projects. And finally, I would just say again, with that integrated understanding of that scholarly community, we're working hard to really enrich the open access content, contextualizing research. I think MIT described it as extending that scholarly record. So building content around the research content and making sure that content that was initially jettisoned, as it were, from the end product, be it didn't fit with the conventional structure of a research article or a monograph, that we're trying to reuse that content in other forms to make sure that we're maximizing the impact of our OA content, but also maximizing the impact of our author community's research.
Great. Thanks, Simon. And I guess we'll go straight to Claire.
Hi, thank you for asking me to speak today. I'm head of journals at Liverpool University Press. We publish around 42 journals and about 150, 180 books a year. So like Bristol, we're not, the largest, but we're not the smallest either. In terms of open access strategy, LUP journals have all been hybrid. A gold OA model from 2013. So if you had some funding for an APC, you're able to publish in the journals, but the rest of the content was under a subscription model. We also have a green OA policy. The authors can archive their author accepted manuscripts under a CC BY license, and that is compliant with UKRI policy. We also had put together the Open Access Author Fund, which was established to support early career researchers in humanities and social sciences. And the way that that works is that LUP authors who may be a little bit more established can donate part or all of their royalties to the fund. We then match it, and it can be used then by early career researchers in lieu of an APC in our journals or in our books. Liz knows, we also published Modern Languages Open, which I talked about, I think was 2014 possibly, which is a peer-reviewed platform for open access publishing. There are 12 sections. Each section has its own section editor and editorial board, and we try to keep APCs as low as possible because we do appreciate that in the humanities there just isn't the funding that there is in STEM. We also offer memberships for institutions, so scholars in a member institution can publish 5 articles in MLO without any time limit, and that also helps ECRs, I think. But our most recent venture, in line with what Andrea has been talking about, is into Subscribe to Open, which we're working on at the moment. It's all happening. With something that we're calling LUP Open Planning. It's a transformative open access agreement for 2 of our journals. They are both planning journals, Town Planning Review, International Development Planning Review. We are primarily an arts and humanities publisher, but the planning journals sort of sat a little bit outside of our list, alongside of our list. And we felt that Subscribe to Open would be a really good fit for them. Libraries renew as usual, and the current year is then released to be published open access if the threshold is met. I believe it's advocated by Plan S, encouraged by UKRI, and as Andrea said, it uses existing library procurement processes and budgets. So it's the same infrastructure, and it's also the same for us. As a smaller publisher, we don't have large teams of OA managers. It's just me and the journals team, and it helps to hopefully protect against cancellation. There's a lot of advocacy that we're relying on with our institutions, and we're sort of hoping that maybe if the subscriptions budgets have been cut in institutions, which I know they are being, institutions might be able to perhaps draw on an open access budget. So in terms of our agreement, institutions that commit to the agreement gain access to the new content as soon as it becomes available. And the archives of the journals are available only to subscribers. And in some cases, for TPR, for example, the archive goes back to 1910. So it really is a large benefit for subscribers. We kept any price increases minimal. We were hoping that perhaps if folks were interested in subscribing to one journal, they might want to subscribe to the other. So perhaps it might mean new subscribers for one or the other journal that could sell in a bundle. We're really hoping for an increase in usage to make the content more available, obviously to support the movement towards open access. And one of the ways we've done that is to work with JISC, who agreed to support and promote our program. It's easier for libraries again there because they can subscribe through the JISC framework. We're also doing some work with Lyrasis. in the States. I think in terms of other models, they really seem to rely a lot more on scale. So read and publish, it sort of seemed a little bit more complex to us. It's where you offset articles against subscriptions in institutions. It just wasn't really something that we felt we could work with. I want to do a shout out for the community of practice as well, who have been absolutely brilliant, so supportive, and I have picked so many brains along the way, and that's been so useful. And I can share that we are close to the threshold. We're busy thanking our institutions on our website. We're not quite there, but I'm really hopeful that in the next month or so we will get there. That's it from me.
Oh, wonderful. I had so many questions about what y'all are doing, and you pretty much answered them all. That's really fascinating, really innovative. And I should say that, yes, indeed, you were on one of the panels right when you launched your Modern Languages Open. So fun to work with you again.
Yeah, you too.
And I guess, Antonia, tell us about what's going on at Toronto.
Thank you so much, Liz. Good morning, everyone. I have to say I'm so pleased to be with you all this morning. And maybe if we do this again in the future, maybe we'll go in opposite alphabetical order, because Simon, Claire, and Andrea are really tough acts to follow. I'll tell you a little bit about our program. University of Toronto Press has been around since 1901. And as we inch closer to our 125th anniversary, we're giving a lot of thought to what we want the next 5 years to look like. And well beyond that, what we want the next 125 years to look like. Andrea spoke so eloquently about mission. And Liz, you asked the question of what drives us, what drives our strategies, especially with regards to open access. And I have to say, it really comes back to the mission. UTP's mission is to publish and disseminate knowledge for the benefit of society. And we work towards that mission in a number of different ways. We publish 46 journals with a concentration in the humanities and social sciences, but we also have a growing list of medical titles. We have a fantastic dissemination partner in Project Muse, so shout out to our friends at Project Muse for that. And we have been experimenting with open access for almost a decade. And currently we publish a small subset of our journals on open access models. What I'm really excited to share with you all today is a partnership that the press launched into with the C40 Cities Group. For those of you who are not familiar with C40, it is a network, a global network of mayors working together to confront the climate crisis. C40 has almost 100 of the largest cities in the world as members. And together, these cities account for almost 25% of the global economy. So as a partnership between C40 and University of Toronto Press, we're working on the development and launch of a new journal. The Journal of City Climate Policy and Economy will aim to publish timely, peer-reviewed, of course, evidence-based research to help support cities as they work on economic plans and policies to drive meaningful action to combat the climate crisis. We've all seen the devastation of the wildfires, the rising sea levels, rising temperatures, the ever-increasing severity of hurricanes. And in this particular context, we feel strongly that a journal that aims to drive action through research should have minimal barriers to access. So that's what brings us to the model, right? Thinking about the readership piece, we'd love for everyone who has an interest in the topic across the globe to have the ability to read it without any fees. And on the authorship side, while APCs work well in some contexts, we feel that in this particular context, we'd be concerned about perhaps introducing a barrier to authors from regions where there isn't as much funding available for publication. And with all of that, we've been really intrigued by Subscribe to Open and its enormous possibilities. We've been working with Ram Crow to develop a model for the journal. And like my colleagues on the panel have already articulated, we really like the model because it encourages participation, and it encourages participation on an ongoing basis. We love that it's working in an existing infrastructure. We love the community of practice as well, and that it seems that there are more publishers who are working towards that model, as well as, of course, that Project Muse, which, as I said, is a crucial partner for us, is also exploring it. So this really feels like a moment in time when the community is coming together to work through these issues together. The libraries, the publishers, the researchers, of course, and I'm excited for it. And I'm excited to participate in conversations such as this one, because I think that together we can drive meaningful change.
Great, thanks, Antonia. That's really interesting because I've been thinking of Subscribe to Open is taking it, an existing subscription journal and kind of, flipping it to open access. But y'all are actually starting out with a brand new journal to get this kind of funding, and that's really fascinating. Really cool. I want to circle back to Andrea for a moment. Usage has been mentioned a few times, and I would be remiss if I didn't go back and find out, well, what happened with the annual reviews to the usage once those journals, the journals so far that have participated in S2O. What happened with your, I suspect it was very good, your usage, but tell us a little bit more, please, Andrea.
Sure, Liz. Our usage was significantly higher by taking down the paywall. I think the Annual Review of Public Health opened up in 2017, and it's now 8 times, the usage is 8 times higher than it was in 2017. And we see it really varies by the different territories, but we're seeing anywhere from our usage doubling to being 10 times higher. Our usage predominantly still comes from our subscribing institutions, but we worked with PSI and we did an analysis of where the usage was coming from for public health in the early stages when we opened cancer biology. And I think that's what's really important, is seeing who is using it outside of our normal subscriber base. And there's this really long tail of exactly the people we need to get to: policymakers. We've seen premier cabinets, we've seen police departments, we've seen mental health clinics, we've seen family planning clinics. We've seen it across the board, a lot of school boards, town councils, city councils, high schools. So we're seeing exactly the type of people that we would hope would be able to get to our content that would normally not have funding or have a subscription. There's this kind of fear of big universities or institutions free writing. We haven't seen a lot of that yet. If we see it, we will go to them and ask them to support it, but we're really seeing the usage where we want to see it.
That's great. Cool. And I think, Simon, did you have something you wanted to add about usage?
Yeah, sure. I think, as I said before, we've not yet embarked on a Subscribe to Open journey yet with any of our titles, but we've done work's been done in assessing the feasibility and across a number of our journals. And this leads us to believe that Subscribe to Open for us will work best with well-established journals with large archive, and also requires the most sustained engagement from stakeholders, be it the publisher, libraries, and wider scholarly community, in maintaining that partnership. And I think usage is obviously key in actually fostering and maintaining that relationship. But I think there are real opportunities here to look at enhancing the value of usage stats. For example, our Global Social Challenges Journal and our forthcoming platform, BU Digital, we've been adding layers to the data around usage, such as usage by sustainable development goals. Also, I mentioned earlier about contextualizing the research, which I think is especially important when it comes to keeping those back archive articles fresh and relevant, and therefore sustaining usage across the long tail of content there. But I think the biggest opportunity in Subscribe to Open and in open access more broadly when it comes to usage is the fact that there is no paywall. OA usage could become the most pure form of usage analytics. And I think that's really, really powerful. This type of usage has the potential to become incredibly valuable, not just to the scholarly community, but to, as Antonia said about the high school community, practitioner communities, and also this added usage data and the real gold standard of it, I think will be really important to the institutions themselves who are the stakeholders in that Subscribe to Open partnership.
Thank you. That was so well put. I know we had talked earlier about usage, and so glad for you to share that those thoughts on usage. And I think you also hit on something. It seems like not every single journal in the universe is appropriate, or maybe S2O is not appropriate for every single journal. I think maybe certain kinds of journals are well suited. I think that's something important, especially as we look at things at Project Muse. Speaking of Muse, it seems there is an opportunity for Project Muse to help its publishers navigate open access models rather than having the publishers go it alone. And I mentioned that Project Muse has a planning grant underway to investigate Subscribe to Open and what that would look like with Project Muse. And of course, we are working on this with Raym Crow. You've heard he is the architect of Subscribe to Open, so that's appropriate that we are working with him. So we haven't had a chance to hear from him, so let's do that now. Raym, do you think there is potential to, and again, let me back up for a second, just a caveat. We are still very much a work in progress, what we're doing. You know, we haven't come to any firm conclusions, but I guess the question is, do you think there is potential, looking at things so far, to implement a Subscribe to Open offer on Muse for publishers who might be interested? And if so, what advantages might participating in a Muse Subscribe to Open offer provide to publishers and libraries?
Thanks, Liz. Yes, I think there's a very real opportunity for a Muse coordinated Subscribe to Open offer that will benefit both publishers and libraries. And for one, it brings together the publishers can cooperate to add value, add more titles to the collections, so to enhance the collections, if you will, so that it increases the value for subscribers, but without increasing the cost. And that can be done without an opportunity cost to the publishers, because for the most part, we're talking about mature, established journals, ones that aren't rapidly growing in terms of subscriptions. So that kind of benefit, providing term access to backfile content, again across collections and across publishers, it increases the value. In people mentioned before, there's this potential risk of free riding over time, and that's what Subscribe to Open is designed to discourage that kind of behavior by making it in a local self-interest of subscribers to participate. So the model is designed to be revenue neutral for the publishers. It has to be, in order for them to be able, especially for the nonprofit publishers that Muse represents, for them to be able to afford to try the model and to keep the risk controllable. And it's cost neutral on the library side. In the case of Muse, it's not only cost neutral, but it's also there's added value. So it's actually it's enhanced value for the libraries to participate. So I think there's that aspect of the offers, the enhanced content, the backfile content so there's that, and it also keeps the cost distributed across the largest group of subscribers, as opposed to some other models that change the dynamic and shift the value entirely to the publish value, and that requires a radical reallocation of cost. Subscribe to Open doesn't require that, and so it really maintains the momentum of the current model, and it works best because of that for nonprofit, economy-friendly publishers. You wouldn't expect the model to be as well received by libraries if it were offered by rent-seeking commercial publishers, right? So this is who it's intended for. So I think the opportunities there. The other aspect of this is that communicating the offer to libraries and to subscribers worldwide is far more efficient and effective if you can do it at scale. We're talking the community practice, and the other speakers here today often represent smaller presses that don't, and they mentioned they don't have the wherewithal to go out and manage these offers individually. Where if you come together, you really get a benefit of scale, and we anticipate that will increase libraries' comfort with the offers as well.
And we mentioned that, a specific kind of journal, specific level of maturity, or for subscribe to open. Are there additional criteria that a Muse journal would need to fit? Do you think?
Yes, it's the usual. As Andrea mentioned, I mean, it was S2O was originally designed for where APCs don't work, either because they're basically because of the content or the inequity of them, or the number of philosophical reasons for it. And also it works best for mature journals that aren't rapidly growing, because logically speaking, it leverages the existing subscriber base. Antonio mentioned there are ways to modify the model so it works with new journals, and that's an exciting possibility. Additionally, with Muse, what we're focusing on are exclusive titles. And by exclusive, we mean titles that are only available through Muse, or the titles that are available through Muse and the publisher's own platform. So, and that focusing on those, there are about 315 of those journals. Not saying that all of them will participate necessarily, but those are what we consider to be candidate journals. So that focusing on the exclusive journals allows us to control the offer. If it were, if they're going out through all sorts of aggregators and channels, it's impossible to control the offer. There's that, and it also, just as a practical matter, limits to some extent the secondary rights revenue that we have to offset just from a revenue hurdle standpoint. So that's the real focus within Muse, is on exclusive titles. And again, most of the titles are mature, so it fits well.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I thought there might be something a little in addition to the maturity and whatnot. One thing, just to kind of quibble a little bit, one thing that I think can trip people up in understanding this is that the offer happens each year, because it's a journal and it keeps coming back. And so there's potential, I think, for a journal that was open for a year, it had a great success with its offer, to possibly have the offer fail with the next year, and then be gated again that next year. And just to make sure we all understand, is content that is opened up through this ever closed back up, how does that work?
Well, just to be clear, any content that frontlist content or current year content that's opened, made open access, remains open access in perpetuity. So whatever happens in future years, it doesn't affect any year that had a successful offer. But having said that, you're absolutely right. The conditional nature of OA under Subscribe to Open is a critical to the logic of the offer. I mean, that's what if you're trying to overcome free writing behavior, you need to have leverage to do that. And basically, it's not as though a journal is flipped once and for all and stays open. That's not the way this works. The fact that it recurs every year is what's necessary to provide the ongoing stability and ensure that libraries continue to participate. That, along with the enhanced value and the other kinds of benefits that are built into the model, to make it in the local self-interest of the institution to continue to subscribe. At the same time, the fact that, and overcome the fact that, yes, the content may be open, but it still makes sense to support it. So yeah, it's certainly not a quibble with the model. It's essential to the model that, and I know that it raises kind of the uncomfortable specter that, well, there may be future years that are closed. And that's inherent in the model, the good thing is it can be avoided entirely by continuing to subscribe and supporting the model, and then the content remains open. But it's not designed that way by accident. That's an essential part of the model.
Well, I think that's comforting to know that once actual content is OA, that it stays open. I think that's the essential tenet there, but yeah, that is intriguing. But you're right. I mean, the solution is just keep subscribing, and yeah. So yeah. So that's.
I'm sorry. I
Go
should
ahead.
also point out, just to make sure to clarify. So in terms of the enhanced content, there's a current content's made open, but some of the contents that's if you participate, you're guaranteed term access to the content. So even if the offer fails and the current content isn't open, the supporting libraries still get access to the to the frontlist content, but it's on a year's license. So so there is that. That's the benefit. That if you participate, you're guaranteed access not only to the content you're currently subscribing to, but to a lot more content. If the content's eventually, if it's open, it's great. But nevertheless, you still benefit from the term access.
Thank you. That's very helpful to clarify, and I think that's a question that libraries would have certainly. So before we turn to a possible question and answer session with our audience, I just wanted to check and see if any of our other panelists had any other comments or questions for RAIM. Again, it's a work in progress, but just want to give you all an opportunity. If you want to raise your hand, and I will call on you if you do. Well, then why don't we go to the audience? It sounds like we do have some questions. So our first question, do libraries report problems getting subscribed to open invoices through their procurement process? Not a true sub, since content will be open to all to read, could save money in tight budgets.
I can answer that if you'd like, Liz.
Sure.
We haven't had a problem when we've done some license agreements. There have been questions from procurement, and that was why it was really important for us. For us, we have the reviews in advance that don't publish, that publish ahead of print or ahead of the full volume publishing. Those have to remain behind a paywall because our journals come out at different times of the year, and we don't know until close to publication date if it will publish. Having those behind the paywall has helped with that, and having some sort of benefit that the subscriber is getting that everyone else isn't getting it, whether it be for us, the reviews in advance is what we call them, or additional back volumes. So in that rare case, which it's just happened once, we did have something that we could show them was different from what the others were getting.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to join in on that one before we go to the next question?
I can speak quickly. I mean, we haven't had any issues as such. I think because the processes have worked in exactly the same way. The renewals have gone out. The librarians have seen the renewals. They've either renewed or not renewed. And I think we have had a few questions, just sort of, and I think in the beginning, there was perhaps less awareness of what Subscribe to Open was. So I had a couple of people come back to me and say, well, you need to tell me how many papers we've published in your, people in our institution have published in your journals. And I had to say, no, that's not how this works. This is Subscribe to Open. And we sort of explained it a lot more. But I think that, I mean, I've said this before, I think that Project Muse is in a really good position to be able to help explain to the wider community what Subscribe to Open is, how it works, because you have such a great rapport and community surrounding you, and this is all about community. So yeah, I think that this sounds really exciting, what Project Muse is doing, just because in terms of making the wider community more aware of what Subscribe to Open is and how it works. But in terms of invoices, no, not so far. We've been okay.
Okay, thanks, Claire. And just to remind everyone, you can pose questions in the Q&A module that's just below the video player on the website. Or if you have a comment, we're happy to receive those as well. We have a clarifying question. Did you say that Subscribe to Open is available for titles that are also only on Muse and the publisher's platform? And I believe that is what Rain was saying. But Rain, did you want to just confirm that, please?
Well, it's titles that are either exclusively through Muse or exclusively and the publisher's platform. So again, there are about 315 titles in total that fall into that category.
Great, thank you. Much like everyday subscriptions, do publishing companies who use S2O or Subscribe to Open ever see author royalties being a possibility in the future? What barriers are there to currently paying scholars? And I'll just throw that out to the panel at large if someone wants to chime in on that.
Well, if we're talking about royalties, we're talking, I assume, primarily about monographs. And so there's and I'm not sure, the colleagues from the presses can talk about to what extent, you actually pay royalties on monographs. I mean, I don't think it's not the trade publishing, it's still more of a prestige and professional advancement thing. So there's nothing that would keep a press from paying royalties. But it would help, there'd be calibrated, it would be different. But again, I don't think it's a huge issue from a financial standpoint. It'd be interesting to hear what the press has to say.
Right, thank you. And hopefully that answered the question. And then we have another general question. I think people are really, trying to really grasp this. What is the difference between Subscribe to Open and other open access journals? And I guess we did kind of mention, hybrid, we mentioned gold, but if someone could give us kind of a quick rundown of the difference between S2O and the other open access models. And I'll throw that out to whoever wants to take that one.
Well, I'll just start real briefly by saying that it doesn't require APCs, which is a big deal. It allows authors to publish without, again, paying an APC and without libraries having to monitor APCs or negotiate this as part of the agreement. All of that is far more streamlined. And the main thing about Subscribe to Open is it's, again, conditional OA. It's not open until it's open. It's designed to have to require a high level of participation across subscribers, very high in order for it to succeed. So to the question earlier about, is it a voluntary payment? No, because the chances of being able to free ride are very, very low. That's not a very effective strategy if you're a subscriber that's needed a lot of the content in the past.
Thanks. Any other panelists want to comment? Okay, so then our next question, it's interesting to see Plan S support for S2O, but does that work? Has Coalition S said if authors meet funder mandates, even if S2O offer fails?
So there are a couple of ways you can address that. You can, it's great that Plan S endorses Subscribe to Open. So how that gets implemented in practice, we'll see. But you can have green kind of policies that are in place that still satisfy the requirements in the Plan S context. So that's the simplest and the most straightforward. You just have liberal, self-archiving policies. And we're also experimenting with, and we're doing this, we're experimenting with Muse, and all of this is provisional, as Liz said. This in the context of Muse, with OA publish guarantees for premium collection subscribers, and that would satisfy the plan as requires. The challenge has been for some of the S2O publishers is how they might tap into research funder funding as opposed to subscriber funding, and that's still a work in progress.
Okay, yeah, that is an interesting question. Were there any other comments on that from the other panelists?
For Liverpool University Press, absolutely, that's our policy, in that we have the green open access policy in place, and an author accepted manuscript has a CC BY license. So in terms of meeting Plan S requirements, we would be doing that, but we would really hope that as a transformative agreement that Subscribe to Open would work each year. I mean, we're yet to find out. So we're hopeful.
Great, thanks, Claire. Okay, and then, oh, here's a good question. Karen Wolf discussed that while the humanities are declining in academia, they may be moving into community spheres and other spaces. Are OA models a way for publishers to shift as well? And I'll throw that out there to everyone to comment.
I could start, Liz.
Sure.
Karen, I loved Karen's discussion this morning. It was just brilliant. One of the things that I think is powerful about Subscribe to Open is that it brings the community together. Publishers are participating, of course, libraries are participating, of course, researchers are participating. And I think that this really is a moment in time, given, Karen walked us through everything that's going on in the world. Given everything that's going on in the world, I think it is incredibly critical for the community to come together and figure out ways for the dissemination of knowledge to continue and for it to happen in an equitable way across the globe, across areas where maybe there's less research funding available. I don't know that really answers the question because it's such a rich question, but just my initial thoughts.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I agree with you about the Karen Wolf. Yeah, that was marvelous. I can't wait to go and listen to it again. But those are really, really good points, Antonia. Anyone else with any comments to add?
Yeah, I would just say, just following up on that, it breaks down the boundaries, not just to the access to the research, but breaks down the boundaries of the difficulties in facilitating the transactions. And I think by doing that, by actually saving libraries time, by saving the time of that subscription process, by saving the time in terms of the whole APC process that's taken out of the equation, it gives every stakeholder group the time to spend more time and resources around creating that content. It also allows more time and I think greater opportunity for other organizations, other interested parties that may have been out of the loop through digital disenfranchisement or socioeconomic disenfranchisement to be part of this and to have access not just to that end research output, but to have a greater part in actually becoming a participant in the next generation of authors creating content for S2O publishers and S2O journals.
Thanks, Simon. Anyone else? Or
I think the community usage we've seen really shows how Subscribe to Open has opened us, all of us scholarly publishers that have been inside universities and research institutes, for annual reviews since 1932, and now we're out in the communities like we have never been before.
Yeah, the key word I think is community. One of my favorite words. I was excited already about S2O and learning more about it and exploring it from Muse. And I'm even more excited now hearing what everyone has had to say. So any other parting thoughts on that question?
I was just going to say that we've had such a warm response to what we're doing, particularly from institutions, from libraries, we've actually had libraries approach us and say, we haven't subscribed to these journals before, but we really want to, because we want to support what you're doing. And I think that's, that's testament, isn't it, to the community that we're creating, and the sort of the continuity as well. I think that there is this good feeling around what we're trying to do, and people generally in the institutions, they want to be involved, they want it to work. And we've been thanking each institution who has subscribed and who has agreed to be part of the agreement on our website and on Twitter, and I think that there is that advocacy, there is that group, feeling that you're doing something good.
Advocacy, another good keyword. Well, that's really great that you're getting really positive response. I mean, because you never know if something's a little different. But maybe it was a fad back in 2014, but I'm glad to hear that library support for OA and for this model has been enthusiastic, or at least in what y'all are relating. So awesome, thanks. So I think that's all that we had for our questions from the audience. So I'll just, and I think we're kind of getting toward the end anyway. We'll certainly share all of the questions with the panelists, so they'll have a copy to take with them. But I want to remind y'all that we will continue the conversation among other topics when we meet for the journal's networking session this afternoon at 3:30 Eastern time. So there is a Zoom link on the agenda of the Muse Meets webpage. You can click to join, so don't miss that. It'll be a chance to actually, we won't be in person, but we'll at least be able to see each other and have a little bit of interaction and journals related discussions. So please, everyone, come to that. But for now, thanks so much to everyone for attending our panel, and a special thanks to our panelists. I think this has worked out beautifully. Just a reminder, we will now be taking a 45-minute break, and then our next panel discussion will start at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we're going to hear from a panel of academic librarians who will delve into the topic of community-based solutions to shared challenges, innovating together for inclusion, equity, and justice in scholarly communications. You don't want to miss that. So we'll see you back in about 45 minutes. Thanks very much.